Hello and welcome to the Motoring News Zone, the show where we take you through all the biggest stories in the world of cars right now. This week we take a look at the changing attitudes towards Chinese-made electric vehicles in the UK. We summarise the car finance scandal in the UK and why it could end in billions of pounds of payouts to customers, and we also bring you the story of the 200 grand Porsche. But it's not a car, it's a sculpture. All that and a whole lot more is coming up in today's show. Let's dive in. The phrase more money than sense is one that I use a lot, especially when it comes to cars. There's certain things that, you see people doing with, cars in general, to be fair. There's a lot of cars that you look at and you think, why on earth have you splurged hundreds of thousands of pounds to look like an absolute idiot on the road? There's plenty of those around, trust me, and people drive like idiots too. Now, I've got this article here on the motoringchronicle.com where a one-off Porsche 934 Sculpture has sold for over £200,000 on collecting cars. Pretty sure you can get a Porsche 934 in very good condition and do it up and make it so nice and have a lot of change left over for that price. But this sculpture, which you'll see on the screen very shortly if it's not already on there, it just looks like a bit of orange scaffolding. Let's have a look at this monstrosity here on the motoringchronicle.com, guys. Not a fan of this personally, especially for the price tag, but hey, again, some people have more money than sense. Collecting Cars, the world-renowned auction platform, has successfully sold a one-to-one scale wireframe artwork of the Porsche 934 created by artist Benedict Radcliffe for an impressive £201,000 last week. This final sale price is over 3 times that of an iconic 930 series 911 Turbo, underscoring the global appeal of this extraordinary artwork. Well, it's certainly unique. Reaching international bidders, the one-to-one wireframe model gathered over 6,000 views across its 7-day auction on Collecting Cars' platform and saw 218 bids in that period. Sold to a collector in Asia, the winning price of just over £200,000 is over 3 times more expensive than a usable 911 Turbo of the same era, or as much as a low-mileage example of the car sold in February 2024. That was for just over £180,000. The Porsche 934 in its delivery is one of the most iconic racing cars of its type, and this sale of the sculpture that it evokes is one that will go down in the history books. It's proof of the breadth of automobilia available on Collecting Cars and the power of the community and bidders on the platform. More money than sense. We can't wait to see the sculpture in situ over to the client in Asia. It's going to be a great talking piece, said Edward Lovett. Yeah, why did you spend that much money on the founder and CEO of Collecting Cars? The handcrafted wireframe sculpture is a meticulous homage to the legendary 934 racing car, captures the essence of its design in stunning detail. First seen in 2022 at the Milan Design Week, the sculpture was showcased at the prestigious store on Via Monte Napoleone. It later travelled over to Beijing and Shanghai in China, where it was exhibited in collaboration with Porsche China, solidifying its international acclaim. Collecting Cars continues to solidify its position as a leader in global car collecting market, and they are laughing all the way to the bank with that one. But in all seriousness, right? I do go on YouTube and I do look up conspiracy theories about things and stuff like that, and a lot of them are insane, but they make for entertaining viewing. Some of them I think do have some credence to them, and one of the ones that I think is absolutely true is that modern art is a scam. It's all to do with money laundering and all that sort of stuff. Because if you've seen some modern, this is not the most egregious example by any means, but if you've seen some modern art where it's like a piece of paper with some cuts in it and it's worth like 100 grand or whatever, there's been cases of people throwing away art in museums because they thought it was rubbish, but it just turns out it wasn't, although it was rubbish in a roundabout sort of way. So I totally get the fact that the potential theory that this, modern art and stuff like that could well just be a way for people to offload money. I mean, this is not as egregious as that. I feel like this is an actual potential investment because it's a one-off piece. It's very unique. It's an iconic racing car. It's an iconic brand in Porsche as well. You look at that and you know what it is. It's blatantly obvious that that is a 934, obviously, or at least you would know it's some kind of 911 branded car. Some sort of no, you know it is. It's a Porsche, as Matt LeBlanc said in Friends many years ago. So yeah, I mean, this could well be an investment. That thing could be worth 300 grand in a few years. Who knows? But I'll be honest, it still looks like an orange bit of scaffolding to me, personally. Maybe it's too rich for my taste. Definitely it's too rich for my taste. I could not afford that. But if I had that kind of money, I wouldn't spend it on that personally. But hey, to each their own. That collector in Asia, that all power to you, man or woman. I hope you have fun exhibiting it to your friends and explaining why you spent that much money on that. It's official, guys. The Chinese are coming. In fact, they're already here, actually, in terms of the EV market here in the UK. They're trying to get a decent percentage of the market over here. And I think the Chinese EV market in their home nation is absolutely massive. I've not looked up the stats myself. Apparently, around 80-90% of new cars sold in the People's Republic of China these days are EVs. Take that with a pinch of salt. You can trust Chinese stats or not, but that's just what I've been hearing. I might do some research on that someday to see if that is the case. But the fact remains is that China is trying to come over here in terms of the EV market and try and make some money, basically. Good old money. But there's some serious trust barriers still when it comes to the tech and the reliability of these cars. So let's have a look at this article here on themotoringchronicle.com. Some interesting findings on here, no doubt. Affordable high-tech Chinese electric car brands are winning over younger UK consumers and emerging as key players in the nation's transition to zero-emissions vehicles, that good old ZEV, according to the latest Auto Trader research. As Chinese brands such as BYD and Omoda gain ground in the UK market, new research shows 4 in 10 UK consumers are willing to consider a Chinese car brand. The greatest support for Chinese brands comes from the 17 to 34 age group, with 57% attracted by factors including innovative technology and affordability, compared to just 25% of over 55s. I think that speaks to really the amount of money that younger people, millennials, there really have to play with, which is usually not a lot compared to the over 55s. So if they're wanting an EV, quite often that's not, they've only got the choice to go for something like that, sadly. By the time the UK's ban on the sale of new petrol and diesel cars comes into force in 2030, I can't see how they're going to do that. That's going to get pushed back, guys. That's 5 years away. It's not happening. New entrants, dominated by Chinese brands, could account for up to 25% of the UK EV market, or around 400,000 cars on the road, according to the Road to 2030 report. This comes despite suspicions among older consumers who harbour concerns about data security, quality and pricing. The research found that 41% of 55 plus consumers were concerned by data security and privacy risks when buying Chinese products, with 43% of the same age group mistrusting the quality of goods. The Chinese charge comes as the UK overtakes Germany to become the biggest EV market in Europe and the third biggest worldwide. The UK also remains tariff-free to Chinese manufacturers, in contrast with EU markets, while new US President Donald Trump has scrapped EV sales targets altogether. That's not a surprise, really. Chinese new entrants have helped raise the number of sub £30,000 new EV options from 9 to 29 between last year and the start of this year, with examples including the Leap Motor T03, which is priced at just over £15,000, and the GWM Aura 03, which is just under £25,000. Moreover, Chinese manufacturers have not yet fully flexed their pricing power in the UK market, with many prices lower in their home market. For example, the BYD Dolphin RRP in China can be as much as £10,000 less than in the UK. But at the end of the day, people in China have usually smaller incomes. There is, of course, a very large rich class that is growing over there, but in general, Chinese people do earn less than the UK. And of course, it's made in their country, so presumably, you've obviously got the shipping cost and stuff like that. But you would imagine that £10,000 per unit there, per car, they could well go even lower with the prices if they wanted to. You can imagine there's some serious wiggle room when it comes to the profit margins there. New Chinese entrant share of inquiries on Auto Trader for new cars more than doubled last year, up from 1.3 in 2023 to 3.4 in 2024. Last year also saw a mammoth jump in the number of retailer sites stocking Chinese new entrant cars, according to Auto Trader data, up from 34 in January to 173 by the end of the year. Across all price brands, lower production and battery costs are bridging the price gap between EVs and traditionally fueled vehicles. Since the beginning of 2024, the price of premium price on the average recommended retail price of EV of the equivalent ICE model has fallen from 35 to 24%, equivalent to around £3,600. And just at the bottom of the article, if you want to go read it for yourself, please do. Please head over to themotoringchronicle.com. But yeah, I mean, interesting findings there. I mean, look, at the end of the day, right, I feel like a lot of millennials, a lot of people my sort of age, to an extent, because if these people want EVs, I mean, personally for me, I'm not overly keen on them, I'll be honest with you, but a lot of people like them, and I see why at the end of the day. But you know, for me, I love my petrol powered Kia, I just do. But you know, I totally see the attraction of EVs right now, because of course there are certain incentives when it comes to how cheap they are relative to a lot of new petrol cars. The incentives and the supplements when it comes to the price of them overall is unsustainable in the sense that it's so cheap for the consumer. It's not great for the manufacturer, but it's great for the consumer. So yeah, we'll see what happens with it. I mean, I imagine these numbers are going to rise. I'll be honest, I've not really seen many Chinese EVs going around. I think I've seen a couple of BYDs, and technically MG is Chinese, I think, these days, isn't it? So I've driven one. My only driving experience of an EV was actually a Chinese one, technically, even though I think there's still sort of a British brand. I know they used to be back in the day, MG, so a bit of a murky water with that one. But yeah, the thing is as well, you've got to hope that the government and stuff, whoever's testing these cars, does so thoroughly, because the battery technology is one of the biggest concerns really when it comes to this. How safe are they in the event of an accident? So I hope they do their test properly and stuff, but I know there's some concerns around that too. You would think that they would do it properly, but I know, yeah, I've heard conflicting things about that personally. So yeah, we'll see what happens with this, guys. Yeah, like I said, the Chinese are coming. The Chinese are here, and they are wanting to dominate the UK e-market. But will they? I don't think so. I feel like there's enough mistrust around Chinese products for not everybody to go and get them, to be honest. A significant portion of people will, because that's all a lot of people can afford. It's the same with products in general. You don't really want to buy Chinese, but a lot of times you do, and you might even realize it as well. But yeah, that's my kind of thoughts on it, guys. What are yours? Would you consider driving a Chinese car that's an EV as well on top of that? Thoughts in the comments below. So I spoke yesterday about the car loan scandal, about how there could potentially be billions of pounds of payouts sent to customers because of some dodgy car loans, basically. And I didn't explain too much about what the cause of this was. I just explained what has happened in terms of the Treasury bailing out these companies, and also why the government's done this. And I didn't go too in depth with it just because it was a long enough video as it was, but I felt like I owe you guys a proper explanation for what's going on here if you're not aware of this. I wasn't aware of it until too recently either, in fairness, but this has been going on for a good few months now, since November at least. And in terms of when it's actually been occurring, it's been going on for years with these companies. But let me just go through this article first of all from the BBC News, and then also go into some of your comments as well that you left on the previous video, because very interesting points, and I have to say I do agree with some of them. But yeah, I will go into all that as we go through the video. Full article here on bbcnews.com. Or .co.uk, I should say. People missold finance agreements when buying cars could wait months for a decision on whether they should receive compensation. A decision by judges at the Court of Appeal has blown open an ongoing saga into hidden commission payments, with buyers possibly in line for payouts totaling billions of pounds. Now, this was last updated back in December. Potentially that is on the cards now, although there is an appeal process that's going to go on until at least April. But the highest Supreme Court has now agreed to hear an appeal against the decision. The Financial Conduct Authority, FCA, has also allowed motor finance providers extra time to deal with complaints. Lawyers acting for motorists say this could further delay compensation, which should be paid to car buyers who may not have given their informed consent for the commission payments. who may be in line for payouts. The vast majority of new cars and many second-hand ones are bought with finance agreements. About 2 million are sold this way each year, with customers paying an initial deposit, then a monthly fee with interest for the vehicle. I do that personally with mine. I know a lot of people do that because buying a car in a whole lump sum is that's a big expense. That's a lot of money. It's like another deposit for a house, and it's hard enough to even get a deposit for a house these days. In a complicated and long-running series of developments, many of these agreements have come under scrutiny. In 2021, the FCA banned deals in which the dealer received a commission from the lender based on the interest rate charged to the customer. It said that this provided an incentive for the buyer to be charged a higher than necessary interest rate. Since January, it has been considering whether compensation should be paid to people with these deals before 2021. That has created the prospect of banks and other lenders having to make payouts totaling millions of pounds. Last month, a decision at the Court of Appeal broadened the net of those who could receive compensation, potentially increasing the lender's final bill to billions of pounds. I think they've estimated it could be up to £3 billion in total. Why was the decision so important from the judge? While the initial investigations surrounded discretionary commission arrangements, which were banned in 2021, the Court of Appeal decision widened the scope to any car finance commissions. The three judges unanimously agreed that it would be illegal for the lender to pay any commission to the dealer without the informed consent of the buyer. In other words, customers should be clearly told how much commission would be paid and agreed to it, without those deals being buried in the terms and conditions of the loan, which obviously that has not been the case for a lot of people. And this is the guy who kind of started it all here, Marcus Johnson. What a legend. Buying a Suzuki Swift as well. Potentially a great car choice. I've heard mixed things though. But anyway, that's not important here. The hearing included the test case of Marcus Johnson from Cwmbran in Wales, who bought his first car, a Suzuki Swift, in 2017. He was not informed that the dealership was being paid 25% commission, which was added on to what he had to pay back. So essentially what's happened there, let's say just for argument's sake that he would normally have been charged £100 per month for this car. That's all the interest and everything included. It's just a monthly flat fee throughout the duration of the contract. Let's say 3 years. It normally is about 3 or 4 years. But instead of being charged that £100 from the dealership, he was actually charged £125. These are just numbers, by the way. It's just for an example purpose. I don't know how much he was paying. I don't know how much it was for. How long it was for, I should say. But he obviously wasn't, that wasn't actually in there. He wasn't actually informed about that. Where it's like, well, you're paying us £100. This is the dealer speaking, by the way. You're paying us £100, but £25 on top of that is going to go in commission as well. So people should legally be informed about that. People have not been, which is why they could well have to pay out a lot of money. And I think it's been decided now that he's going to get paid about £3,400, I think it said in the recent article, which, again, it's not a huge amount of money. You'd take it. You'd definitely take it. But in the sense of everybody who has these car deals, billions of pounds get added up very quickly because millions of people finance. I don't know how many people do cars on finance, but it's got to be in the millions, surely, in the UK. We've got 30 million vehicles, I think, in the United Kingdom, so millions have to be on finance, surely. I signed a few documents and then drove away in the car, he told the BBC. He said he had no option but to use finance when he bought the car, describing it as heartbreaking to find out how much extra money had been taken. Someone in my situation at the time, not being able to buy that kind of age car with cash, you would use finance, he said. And obviously, if you buy it in that lump sum, let's just say it's a 20 grand car, if you buy it on finance, you're going to have to pay over the whole thing 35 grand because of the interest. It's similar to a mortgage. You borrow, I don't know, 100 grand or something like that, but you'll end up paying back over 30, 40 years, 200 grand because of the interest. So effectively, it's being taken from him illegally, and that's what's been ruled. Following the judge's decision in his and two other car buyers' favour, banks have set aside millions of pounds for potential compensation. Other lenders have temporarily paused any new deals. It's thought the total compensation could reach 25 billion. Wow, okay, well, I think it's been revised a lot lower since then, but either way, billions, it's a lot of money. How did the regulator respond? The FCA said the decision could lead to dealers and motor finance providers receiving a deluge of new complaints, and it's urging people to make a claim if they think they were the victim of mis-selling. Some could come from people previously told they had no claim for compensation because they did not have this discretionary commission arrangement. The regulator has extended the time provided have to consider complaints until December 2025, aligning the deadline for firms to deal with discretionary and non-discretionary arrangement complaints. The time period covers claims regarding leasing deals as well as personal contract purchase PCP agreements. The FCA also wants the Supreme Court to make a quick decision on when it will reconsider the Court of Appeal's ruling, which is going to be April now, I believe. It was an orderly compensation system if it comes to that. The Finance and Leasing Association, the trade body for motor finance providers, welcomed the extension. However, others have questioned whether it creates further compensation delay for those who have missold these arrangements. So what's happened since then is that the Treasury of the United Kingdom, the finance people of the UK, basically have effectively bailed out a lot of these companies, stopped them from going under. Now, I said in my previous video that the reasoning for the Treasury doing this is because they don't want these companies to go out of business. Therefore, if that was to happen, then there would be less competition, there would be less competitive market, people will buy less cars, the market will shrink, it will hurt the economy, etc., etc. It's a kind of spiraling case there, and obviously the UK is in a lot of trouble as it is. But the counter argument to that I've heard in a lot of the comments on that previous video, and not without merit, I see their point. It's technically true. That it's not the Treasury that has bailed out these companies. It's the United Kingdom taxpayer. And that's correct in an indirect sense. That is absolutely correct, of course, because you have to consider the fact that, of course, the government, the Treasury, everything when it comes to that is all based upon, all their money comes from the UK. We pay their wages. We pay the wages for police and public servants, the NHS, everything in the UK. Taxpayer money goes to paying that. That's how it works. That's why we pay tax for goods and services. It's very elementary, but it's true. And of course, then it's like, well, I didn't vote for this. I didn't choose for my tax pounds to go and bail out companies who have effectively broken the law and are being punished for doing so. So effectively, what people are saying is, and again, don't disagree with this because it's technically true, the government is effectively using your money to pay for private companies to survive an illegal offence that they have made that has nothing to do with you and that you may well be the victim of. So think about it this way. This honestly is pretty bad when you think about it, but think about it this way, right? I'll use me as an example here because I'm a good example. Let's use me, right? So I've got my car. I love it. I pay for it every single month with my monthly repayments as it is. I agreed to a couple of years ago when I got it. But let's just say, and I'm going to look it up for myself, by the way. I haven't looked it up yet for me. I'm definitely going to make a claim if I can. But let's just say, and I'm not saying this is the case for me, but it might be, given the fact that my deal is one of the ones that is mentioned in there, that type. What if my car was with that commission thing 25%? So we're talking a good amount of money here. We're talking north of £100, I will say that, per month. Let's just say that happened. I'm the same as that dude from Cumbrae, Mr. Johnson, right? Marcus Johnson, whatever his name is. Let's just say that I've got to pay, that I've had that same deal and it was like, oh, you've got to pay this much, but you've really got to pay this much. And we're not going to tell you that though. We're just going to keep it on the quiet. We're not going to include it in the paperwork or anything, right? So with that all in mind, potentially I am owed money from this company because I was illegally sold this deal. I was not made aware of that during the paperwork and everything like that. So then effectively they pay me out, right? Hopefully I win that case or whatever. They pay me out for it. And on top of that, but to save that company from going bust because of all the payouts they've had to do, my tax money and everybody else's tax money is going to the government who are paying them. It's a really, really messed up thing when you think about it, isn't it? They're effectively paying for their transgressions with the money that they are paying out to you in a roundabout sort of way. Do you see what I mean? It's a really, really strange thing. And people are right to complain about it and be fuming about it. I sympathize with you guys. I really, really do. It is the Treasury that has decided to do this, but it is using effectively your money. It's their money, but where do they get their money? You, the taxpayer. I will leave it there. And when we see some more developments when it comes to this, of course, we'll bring you here on the motoringchronicle.com. It's a developing and ever-changing story. We'll have that appeal in April, and I'm sure we'll hear some other things in the meantime before then too, because it's going to rumble on, I should say, at least until December 25, when all those claims are put in. And it'll be like the, what's it called? Oh, goodness me, I can't remember the name. Payment Protection Insurance, PPI, that's it. It's going to be like that. It's going to go on for years and years, this, I reckon. So, yeah. So, the highway code changed 3 years ago, and there were pretty significant changes in that as well. But are you aware of what actually changed 3 years after these things were implemented? Now, for those that don't know, for those that don't drive, the highway code is basically what governs what you should do and what you should not do while you are driving. Most people don't really look at it after they pass their test. Some people probably don't even look at it before they pass the driving test, in all honesty. So changes to it often do get overlooked. I know they shouldn't, obviously, but most people don't. Let's be honest here. But let's have a look at what's actually changed here, guys, and whether you follow these rules or not. Let's see what is in this article here on the motoringchronicle.com. Road Safety and Breakdown Organisation, GEM Motoring Assist, is urging drivers to ensure they understand and adhere to the highway code changes, which were introduced on the 29th of January 2022. The changes were intended to ensure that those who can cause the most harm have the greatest responsibility to reduce danger to others. Specifically, the changes included 4 things: giving priority to pedestrians crossing or waiting to cross at junctions, requiring drivers to give way to cyclists going straight ahead when turning in and out of junctions, establishing safe passage distances and speed when overtaking cyclists and horse riders, encouraging the Dutch reach method when opening car doors to avoid hitting cyclists. However, 3 years on, GM is concerned that the new rules and the responsibility now placed on drivers are not well understood. In 2023, 405 pedestrians were killed on the roads of Great Britain, with 6,067 seriously injured. 87 pedal cyclists were also killed, with nearly 5,000 seriously injured. In 2024, figures from the British Horse Society show that in 2024, there were 58 horses killed in road accidents. Oh man, that's brutal. With 97 seriously injured. My God, that's awful. Additionally, over 3,000 road incidents were reported by the Society, mostly relating to vehicles passing too close, too fast, or both. GEM Head of Road Safety James Luckhurst said, "This has been one of the most frequently asked questions by GEM members, many of whom feel that they don't have a clear understanding of the increased responsibility under the 2022 hierarchy of road users. They worry that this could lead to confusion and conflict." The changes were welcome when they came out and reflected a shift towards prioritizing the safety of vulnerable road users and encouraging more considerate behaviour on the roads. However, they have no chance of being effective when so few drivers appear to know about them or are confused as to what they should be doing differently. It is also concerning to read that surveys suggest that as many as half of drivers are unaware of the new rules. We encourage the government to lead the way in correcting this situation. A clear communication campaign to car drivers is vital if we want them to know what they are now expected to do differently. GEM has compiled a brief summary of the highway code changes and what cars drivers should do to follow them. Be more vigilant at junctions, give way to pedestrians and cyclists, maintain safe distances when passing vulnerable road users, i.e. pedestrians and cyclists usually, as well as horses. When overtaking a cyclist at up to 30 miles an hour, allow a space of at least 1.5 meters. If you're driving faster than this, ensure the space you allow is greater. When passing a horse on the road, slow down to a maximum of 10 miles an hour and allow space of at least 2 meters as you go past. Take extra care when turning, ensuring you don't cut across cyclists or horse riders, and be mindful of the harm you can cause and adjust your driving accordingly. I will say, just on that cyclist one, it's really difficult to do that. That is really, really difficult to do that. 1.5 meters on UK roads is not easy, particularly when it's busy. But I understand it. I do understand it because at the end of the day, they do need space. And I mean, 1.5 meters is still a lot. I will be honest, but I'm sure cyclists will vehemently disagree with me on that. But I understand it. I understand the thinking behind it at the end of the day. And it's not new news. It's been around for years now. But I guarantee most people aren't aware of this. I mean, you should just be considerate when driving. Don't don't be an appendage, basically. Don't be don't be a four-lettered word beginning with D, which I can't say on here because I can't swear. You know, and it's fair enough, really. I get it. You know, it's I don't know what that Dutch method of opening a boot is, though, or opening car doors. That's a new one on me. But yeah, just beware of what's going on around you. But obviously, not everybody does that. The way a lot of people drive in this country, it's not a surprise. It's nothing to do with these new regulations. People have been idiots on the roads for as long as there've been people on the roads, and unfortunately, that problem only appears to be getting worse. Some frightening stats have just come out about how many people are dying on Britain's roads because of speeding, for example, at the moment, and it's a lot, and it's getting worse. Done a video just about that just before recording this one. If you're on Microsoft, it'll be out at the same time as this. If you're on YouTube, I don't know which one's going to be out first, but they'll be all around the same sort of time. So look out for it. If it's not already there, it will be soon. But yeah, guys, what are your thoughts on these new regulations that are not really new? They've been there for 3 years now, and I think that a lot of people don't realize the changes have been made. Your thoughts in the comments below as always. And of course, keep it subscribed to themotoringchronicle.com to see much more content on the world of motoring just like this. Like, share, comment, subscribe as always, guys. Have a good one. See you soon.